Hail and Blessings, part 1 of a multi-part series on the Valkyrie. What do we know? Let's see. Hang on to your questions to the end. If you've got something you want to ask, after it's done, hit me up. But until then, give me a chance to get all the parts out here to you. What do we know about the Valkyrie? Well, we know that they choose the slain from the battlefield at Odin's behest, that they're helping female spirits of Odin. And I've made tons of notes so I don't forget to tell you anything important. Our modern images show Valkyrie as being more like, quote, Abrahamic angelic-like figures winged. That gives them their maidens, warrior maidens, bearing the dead in a very heroic and beautiful way to Valhalla. It's a selective portrayal of the Valkyrie, of their pleasant qualities, and it leaves out a lot of information that we know from sagas and sources more about their true nature and what it could be. It shows them as having a kind of loving affinity for mankind, especially for warriors, and doing that assistance role for Odin by transferring the dead after battle to Valhalla. But did you know they also choose who dies in battle and how, in what can be seen as a kind of malicious sort of magic, so that they are ensured that their chosen preferences are brought to fruition. We can see a lot of this evidenced in different ways, the good nature and the malicious magical nature as well. In the Eddas and the Sagas, the Valkyries decide who lives and who dies, not merely picking them up and transporting them off after whatever befell them. Valkyries had a gruesome side too, and if we look at Njál's saga, we find there 12 Valkyrie prior to the battle of Clontarf, sitting at a loom, actively weaving a tragic fate of warriors, reminiscent of our Norns. The Njál saga states that these 12 Valkyries used intestines for their thread, severed heads for weights, and swords and arrows as beaters, while chanting their ominous intentions with sheer delight. That doesn't sound like the modern day image that we have of the Valkyrie, does it? The Volsung saga states that looking at a Valkyrie is akin to staring into a flame. Interesting. In Old English, Valkyrie is a female spirit of carnage. So we can see some etymology there of the linguistics relating to carnage. Whether you view them as loving or bloodthirsty, the Valkyrie stood out as a part of a dynamic, complex, shamanistic system that predated the Christian Germanic religion. Much like Hugin and Munin are projections of the parts of the self of Odin, so too in some scholars' minds are the Valkyrie. Although they are distinct, semi-distinct, standalone beings, but they're also a part of Odin's larger being himself. And if we understand the Norse parts of the soul, that makes perfectly good sense, actually. Knowing how these parts of the soul function, act, interact, react with things around us, understanding the concept in view, helps us more easily understand that aspect of the Valkyrie, being those extensions of the persona of Odin, because the powers that the Valkyries behold is only bestowed upon them by Odin himself. And there's another look there at that semi-dual role that they can hold. Valkyries also had some human-like characteristics, which is interesting. They would protect mortals that they loved and favored, or they lashed out at those that they did not. They had romances, they had jealousy, rage, human attributes, and even provoked fights between men on purpose. And some of the accounts say that they did it just because they could, just for entertainment. Some accounts show them swooping down on their sky horses, which is what we modernly see in interpretations, to protect a warrior or to help transport them off. However, did you know that the Valkyries actually could not fight alongside humans in battle? They could use their magical powers to influence a battle and the outcome of it, and there's accounts of them appearing above a battlefield days, if not weeks, before the battle actually took place, or coming prior to that in order to prophesy the battle. Again, think of the Norns, think of Voluspa and the vulva that Odin spoke to prophesying. But they were also incredibly well known for something most people don't know, which is brewing and serving a very delicious magical mead that made men stronger, increased their memory, and healed their wounds. Something we don't always think about. Now, on the next video, we're going to talk about those wings. Did the Valkyrie always have wings? How did the wings come about, if not? Stay tuned for part 2. Blessings. Hail and blessings, the Valkyrie. Part 2, those wings. Let's get into it. Wagner solidified the modern image that we all use now of the Valkyrie having wings. Note the striking similarity in modern interpretations with Abrahamic angels. That was indeed an influence of Abrahamic religions, and it was added, the interpretation of wings. However, each Valkyrie was issued a magical swan skin, and this may be where that interpretation comes from. When they wore this as a cloak, it made them invisible and allowed them bird-like transport. I'm going to give you some more sources. Stay tuned for part 3 on the Valkyries. We're going to start looking at some of the sagas more in depth. I'll tell you where you can find some of these archaeological facts and let you decide for yourself. Blessings.